Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make an e-commerce website using only Python. So you don't need to use JavaScript, no HTML, no CSS or styling. All you need to know is Python to follow along with this video. And the way we're going to be able to make this e-commerce site is using a platform called Anvil. Now, Anvil is the sponsor of this video, but what this platform provides is a free way to use only Python to do full stack development. So you can write Python for the front end, you can write Python for the back end, you can use Python to add components to your website. It's a really, really cool platform. And if you're someone like me who's very good at Python or only knows Python, then this is probably the best thing that you can use to get a full stack website that is fully capable of anything that you would be able to make in something, say, like React or in any other web framework. Anyways, I'm going to walk through this platform and obviously give you an entire tutorial of how to make this website. We're going to be doing everything from creating user accounts, so having sign in and sign ups for our website, to having Stripe integrated to collect payments from users. This is super cool. Let me hop over here and show you a quick demo of what we're going to build. And then of course, we'll get into the tutorial and the platform walkthrough. All right, so I'm here on the finished product. I'm just going to give you a quick demo of what we're going to be building and talk to you about some of the core features that you're going to have in your application once you finish this tutorial. So I just want to mention that I'm not focusing a ton on styling here or the actual content of the website, more just on the functionality and adding user accounts, the Stripe integration for collecting payments, and then different page navigation and the ability to kind of unlock perks or products for specific users once they purchase them. So here we are. You can see I'm on the Tech with Tim shop. This is kind of a course website. Of course, you could change this to whatever you want. And after you build this, you're going to have a really solid foundation for any type of e-commerce site that you want. Anyways, point being, I'm selling courses. So if I go here, you can see it says view courses. We have a Python course and a JavaScript course, and then you can sign into an account where you'll get access to the courses that you've purchased or be able to purchase these courses. So I'm going to click on sign in. I'm going to sign in with my Google account. I've already done that before, so it just signs me in automatically. And then you can see I already have access to the JavaScript course. So I'm just going to go back to the view courses page. I'm going to now purchase the Python course and show you how I get access to it. So you can see I clicked buy now. It's now showing me the payment kind of form, so I can type in my email and the card number and I could purchase this course. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've just filled in the payment information here. Obviously, I don't want to give away my credit card details, so I'm just using a fake one. And right now, this Stripe integration is set up on kind of a test platform. That's why you're seeing the 49 cents here. It's not actually going to charge a credit card. It's just for kind of developing and testing. So I'm going to say pay 49 cents. I do that, we give it a second, and notice that we are going to get a message that says success. We have purchased the course. What we can do is go to my courses, and you should see that we now have access to the Python course. So that's kind of what we're going to be building here. Again, you can extend this and change this to whatever type of website that you will like. This will give you a really solid base for an e-commerce website. With that said, let's hop over to Anvil. Let me start showing you the platform, and then we'll start making this application. All right, so I'm here on the Anvil website. We're actually going to use our web browser to develop this application. We don't need to download anything. We don't need to have an IDE open. You could do this in an IDE if you want, but the online IDE that Anvil has is really good, and that's what I used originally to make this site. And I do want to mention that Anvil is completely free. So they do have some paid plans, but you do not need them to make a website. And you can actually even publish your website completely for free from Anvil with the free plan. So what we're going to do is go to this website, just click on start building. And then what it will ask you to do is to create an account. And then once you do that, it will bring you to a page that looks like this. Now, obviously, I've already created an account. I'm just using an email that I use for my YouTube videos that I had originally created in a live stream. And anyways, what we're going to do from here is click on create a new app and start from a blank application. Now, of course, you could start from a bunch of other apps like this. And in fact, Anvil has a ton of tutorials and full guides that you can actually follow along with if you want to build a different type of website. So of course, we're doing one related to Stripe and collecting payments, kind of an e-commerce store. You can do all kinds of stuff, even related to data science, and they have guided app builds as well. So if you want to build something different, then of course you can follow along with these tutorials. They have a bunch of examples as well. And then if you want to look at some of the features, well, I'll kind of quickly run through these, but this is very, very capable platform. It can do pretty much anything that you want. Anyways, we're going to go to this blank app right here, and we're going to click on material design. That's what I want to start from. This just gives me kind of a little menu bar, which will be nice to start. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that. It's going to load up what's known as the Anvil beta editor. This is the editor I'm using. They have a classic editor, but the beta one is quite good. I haven't found any problems with it, so we can just use that for now. If you wanted to go to the classic, you could click that button. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through the different tabs and things on this website. Then we'll start building the different pages that we want. So you can see here, we actually are starting with a drag and drop editor that allows us to build our custom HTML. So what I can do is in my toolbox here, I can click on something like a label or a link, and I can just drag it directly onto the page, and this will automate and start building the HTML of this page for me. So very useful. That's why I'm saying we don't need anything other than Python, because we can make everything with just drag and drop. So let's just drag that label back here. And if I want to change this label, what I can do is click in the properties tab here and just start messing with, say, its name within my Python code. I'll show you that in a second. The text, its role. I can look at an icon, maybe the layout for it. There's all kinds of stuff and properties that you can mess with. Pretty much anything you would do in HTML, you can do from this property tab. Now what I'm going to do is click on this code tab right here and show you that when I do this, it gives me the code for this page. So this is actually kind of my front end code, and this allows me to say link buttons up and do page navigation, change different properties. And you saw here that when I go to design, it says self.label1. What I can actually do is inside of here, so inside of the init or inside of a method that I make, I can change the properties of label1. I can do something like self.label1.text is equal to hello world exclamation point, like that. So if I go back to design, notice that it's not showing anything, but if I run my code by clicking on the run button, it's going to bring this open. Let's make it full screen, and notice hello world is right here because in my code, I changed the property of that label, or the text of that label, sorry. And then if you go down here, you can see we have our app console, background tasks, and we have the Git integration. Okay, so I'm just trying to show you a few different pieces here. Now, if you want to split between the UI and the code, you can do that by clicking on the split view. And what these pages are called by default is forms. They're pretty much just, a page, right? Like that we would have in our HTML or in our actual website. Okay, so let me click on app here, this little kind of file directory structure, and you can see that now it's showing me my client code, my server code, and then any assets that I have. So for example, if I wanted to actually look at the HTML, I could do that. I could click on standard page.html, and it would show me the built-in JavaScript that it has, as well as the HTML for the page that I have built. Then I could look at the CSS. I could, of course, modify this if I want to. We're not even going to touch these files in this tutorial. Okay, then we have our client code and our server code. So what Anvil actually allows you to do, as you see here, is have some logic for the front end of your website, so for the client, and then we can have some logic for the back end. So on the server side, we can actually use Python as well to set up some APIs or different URLs or routes that we can access from our front end, and all of this stuff that's related to kind of secure information. So our databases, purchasing courses, we're going to do that from the back end using our server code, and we'll do that later in the tutorial. Okay, so that's pretty much all we need to look at for now. I'll just go through a few more of these kind of little tabs that we have, and then we'll start writing some code. So notice we have databases. So there's built-in database integration in Anvil. This allows us to actually store different users that we have, the different courses that we're going to have, pretty much anything else. So we can actually add a table to this default database. When I do this, I can start setting up all of the columns. I don't need to know any SQL to do this. I can just do this with kind of, the built-in editor they have right here. So I can change the name of the table. I can add a new column of different types. I can add all different types of keys, permissions, whatever. We will look at this more later. I'm going to delete this table for right now because we don't need it. Okay, next we have settings. So we can change the name of the app. I'm just going to go with tutorial for now. Of course, we could change the title as well, the description, and then the logo if we want to. We have different Python versions. I'm just using Python 3, basic Python 3. We can go to dependencies. We can install different apps or different modules, sorry. We have our data tables, we have collaboration, and this will actually allow you, if you have the business plan, to have someone live editing the code at the same time as you. Now, what I will also do is in the description, I will leave this link right here, which allows you to just click on this and instantly open a clone of the website that I've built. So in case you get lost or something's wrong, you can just click this link. It will clone this in your Anvil workspace for you, and then you can modify it all you like. You, of course, can download the source code onto your computer using Git or just as a file as well. Okay, that's pretty much it for settings. We then have logs, not super important. We have the theme, so we can mess with the color theme here. You can see that these are kind of the main colors that I have. You can make them whatever you want. And then we have search, which allows us to just search through all of the code and different things in our application. Great, so that is kind of the walkthrough of the platform. Hopefully you're getting the gist of how this works. Now what we're gonna do is build our very first page. We're just gonna start with the design tab. So I'm gonna go here to form 1. And inside of here, I'm just going to change its name. So we're going to rename this. I'm going to call this my base page. Now, the idea is I want this page right here to actually render all of my other pages inside of it. So I want to always have this menu bar on the screen. I'm actually not going to have anything in the sidebar, although you could put something there if you want. And then the main content of our page will go right inside of here, which is called the content panel. Now, the content panel you can see is of type column panel, and this will allow me just to render different components directly inside of here, again, so that we keep this kind of top menu bar on the screen. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here now that we've talked about that is I'm just going to delete this label. And instead of having a label, I'm going to add a link. So that's the thing that's highlighting in blue or underlined in blue. This allows me to actually click on this and then be redirected to a page. Now I'm going to drag a link there. I'm also going to drag 2 links over here. And the reason I'm adding 2 here is because I want one button that's going to say sign in if I'm not already signed in, and another button that if I am signed in is going to allow me to view the different courses that I have. So for link 1, this is going to be kind of our title of the website, and it will bring us back to the home page. So I'm going to call this my title. And then for the text, I'm going to make this Tech with Tim Shop. Of course, feel free to change all of the wording here. So let's go Tech with Tim Shop. And then I want to add an icon for this. So I'm going to click on icon. I could select an icon that already exists here, but what I want to do is make it my own icon. So I'm going to select the Tech with Tim circular icon from my kind of social media kit that I have on my computer. And now you can see I get this image showing up. So very easy to do that. For link 3, I'm going to make this the My Courses button. So I'm going to go to here and call this my_courses like that. Let's make the text My Courses with the proper capitalization. And then let's add a icon here to the left. That's going to be a book. So let's just make it that. That looks good for My Courses. Now for link 2, I want to make this called sign in. And I want to make the text sign in. So let's do that. And let's add an icon for this. So I want this to be kind of like person. So do we have a person? Maybe we want to just call this sign in. So we can go with that. I mean, we can really make this any icon that we want, but that one looks fine to me. And now we have our base page. So what I'm going to do is just go into the code of this base page. I'm going to get rid of this label 1 because now we no longer have the label 1. And well, that's our base page. So if we run our code now, we can see we have My Courses, we have sign in, and we have Tech with Tim Shop. Perfect. I'm going to stop this. And now what we're going to do is build the home page. So this is kind of the base, but what I want to have is actual content on the home page of my website, and then we can navigate between different pages based on the links that we're clicking on. So what I'm going to do is add another form here. I'm just going to make this a blank panel, and the reason I'm going with blank panel is because I'm going to render this page inside of the base page. So you can see we have this kind of empty content panel. I'm going to put the content of what I'm calling the home page right inside of this content panel. You'll see how this works in a second, but for now, let's rename this to be home, and let's start designing this page. So for now, all I actually want on here is an image. So I got to find image. Looks like there's an image right there. What I want underneath that is some type of label. So let's drag in a rich text label, which is the second one right here. And then I want a button. And this button, I think this is a button right here. Let's hover over and see if this says button. Yes, it does. For the button, what I want this to be is to allow me to view the different courses that I can purchase, right? So it's going to say view courses like the finished website did. So let's start here by adding the image. So I'm going to go to image. I'm going to call this maybe main image. And then for the actual image, where would I select that? That's going to be source. So I'm going to click on source, and all I'm going to do is find one of my Tech with Tim logos that I can use here. Okay, so this is actually the logo that I want. I'm going to go with Tech with Tim extra large. Okay, that's the one that I'm looking for. Again, make this whatever you want. For the rich text, let's just call this label. And for the actual text on this, I won't go with anything crazy. Wait, where is the text? That's under content. I'm going to say, this is the Tech with Tim course shop, exclamation point, enjoy. Okay, that's all we need for right now. Now, I don't want the text to be this small, so I want to make it a bit larger and put it in the center. So to do that, I'm going to go to layout. Actually, that's not what I want. I'm going to go to text. I'm going to go to align center. Okay, good. For the font, actually, let's just change the font size. Let's make this font size something like maybe not 50, maybe 40 is good. Okay, so that's actually good for the text. I was going to change the font, but let's make this down to 30. I think that looks fine. And then, of course, if I want, I could resize these. So maybe we'll make this text a little bit bigger, or this image a little bit bigger, sorry. And now we can deal with the button. So for the button, what I want to do is go to appearance here and change the role to be primary color. Now, when I do that, notice it's going to make it the primary color that I have set for my color theme. Of course, I could go secondary color, but for now, we will go... Actually, I think secondary color looks better because I like the orange, so we'll go with that. We don't really need an icon, although maybe we do want one. Let's go... Can I do button or like arrow? Maybe we'll go arrow to the right. Maybe that makes sense. And then for the text of the button, I want to say view_courses, like that. We want this to be bold. Let's make the font size 22. Nice. And then do we want it underlined? Doesn't really matter. For now, we can go with italics. I think that looks fine. Okay, so this is the home page. Of course, I could go to the code. Not really anything we need to do on here right now. But what I will do is I will make it so that we can now render the home page inside of the base page. So what I'm going to do is go to code, and inside of the init here, I'm going to show you how from code, I can actually take this home component and put it on this page. Actually, all I'm going to do this is say self.contentPanel.addComponent. And what I'm going to do is add the home component like this. Now to do that, I need to import the home component. So I'm going to say from, and I believe we can just go with home, import home, like that. Now, let me check my code here and see if this is correct. We're actually going to have to go with from .home. So let's change it to that. And now if I run my code, we should actually see that the home page is rendered inside of the base page. So let's try this. Let's go with run. And now notice we have the home page right here. We have view courses, and it's inside of this base page. So next, what we need to do is set up a few pages for my courses, for signing in, for viewing courses, and make it so that when we click these buttons and these links, it actually does something. Okay, so let's stop running this, and let's actually start by building the view courses page. So when we click on this button, it actually changes what page that we are on. Okay, so let's go stop. Let's make a new page here. So we're just going to make a new form. This again will be a blank panel because we're going to render it from this base page. I'm going to rename this, and let's call this courses like this. This will be the page that allows us to buy different courses. Okay, so on here, what I actually want to do for now is I just want to put a panel. So I'm just going to go to, where is it, right here, column panel. I'm going to add that in. I'm just going to call this the content panel to be consistent with what we had before. And what we're going to do later is we're going to make it so we read the information about our courses from a database, and then we render that on the page. So rather than statically adding the courses, we store them in a database. We then read all the courses from the database, and we dynamically render them on the page. That way, if we decide to add any other courses, or for you guys, maybe products, it will automatically add them here. We don't need to hard code them in, especially in multiple places. So I'm going to put the content panel, but just so that we see something inside of here, I'll put a label, and let's just put some text that just says course page. We'll delete this later, but just so we know that we're going to the right page. Okay, so now that we have courses, let's go back to our home page here, and let's make it so that when we click this button, what it actually does is it brings us to the courses page. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to click on this button right here. And I called this button 1. Let's just call this view_courses. And let's go down to where it shows events. So this is cool. What I can actually do is I can set up an event for showing the button, hiding the button, and clicking. So I'm going to go to click. I'm just going to click on this like kind of double arrow right here. And what it's going to do is automatically create a method for me that will be called when I press this button. So it says this method is called when the button is clicked. And inside of here, I do whatever I want to happen when I click the button. So what I actually want to do is I want to clear the content panel, which is what's going to be holding all of this stuff. We're going to have to actually make that in a second. And then I want to render inside of the content panel the My Courses page. So very similar to what I'm doing from the base template here. From the base template, I'm adding this home page, and then the home page is rendered within the base page. Now from the home page, what I'm going to do is render the My Courses page and kind of delete everything that's inside of this panel. So to do that, I need to first go to design here, and I need to create a column panel. So I'm going to grab column panel. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm actually going to drag all of this stuff inside of the content panel. So let's go here and like that. And now let's go to this main panel if I can find it, and let's rename this to content_panel. Okay, so now let's go to code. And what I will do here is say self.contentpanel.clear. This removes everything, so all of the components from inside of that panel. Then I'm going to say self.contentpanel.addComponent, and we're going to add the courses component like that. Okay, now to do this, I need to import courses. So I'm going to say from ... courses like that, import courses. Great, let's save that. Let's now run, and let's see if this button works. Okay, so loading the page, let's click on My Courses, and notice when I do that, it brings me to the course page. Now what I want to do is make it so when I click on this main button here, it brings me back to the home page. So let's do that. Then we can set up My Courses and signing in. Okay, so let me just remove some of these comments because we don't really need that. Let's go back to base, and let's go to design, and let's add something for when I click on this link right here. So to do that, I'm going to go down to events. I'm going to go to click. I'm going to now have the title click method. And when this happens, I'm just going to clear the content panel and then re-render the home page. That way we will just get the home page on the screen. Doesn't really matter where I am. If I click on this, I just want the home page, right? So we'll say in lowercases, self.contentpanel.clear, and then self.contentpanel.addComponent, and we'll just add a new version of the home page, okay? That's all we need to do. Now that we have done that, what I can do is simply rerun this, and we can test it out. So let's now go to View Courses. Let's click on that. Notice it brings me back to the home page. Awesome. Let's stop this, and let me just quickly describe what this is actually doing when I say home with parentheses, because I don't think I explained that. So as you can see, if we look at even like the base page right here, we have a class, and this class represents the actual page that we're seeing. So if I want to treat a page as a component, all I need to do is make an instance of that class. So what I'm doing is saying make an instance of home. And then if I put that inside of add component, well, it just adds it to the screen, right? It adds that home component inside of the content panel component. And so that's how I'm kind of rendering. Hopefully it makes a bit of sense, but this is the content panel right here. I'm putting home inside of there. And then from home, when I click on View Courses, the home page then clears its content, right? It clears what's inside of there and instead renders the courses page. Perfect. There's many different ways that we could do this, but for now, we're just going to do it in this type of way. All right, so now that I've done that, let's code out the My Courses page, and then let's deal with our different users, so how we can create new accounts, sign in, sign up, etc. So let's go to design. Let's make a new form. This will be a blank panel as well. And let's rename this here to be My, and then courses like that. Now, the only way we're going to access My Courses is from the base page, right? We're going to click on My Courses. And so I want to make a link here that then renders the My Courses page. So I'm going to go to the My Courses link. I'm going to click on click. Then inside of here, we're going to say self.contentpanel.clear and self.contentpanel.addComponent. And we're going to add the, you guessed it, My Courses component. That means that we need to import that. So I'm going to say from ... and then this will be My Courses, import My Courses. That's all we need to do to set up this link. So let me save that. Let's now go to My Courses, and let's just add something on the screen. We want a panel. So I'm going to call this, again, the content panel. And then I want a label, and let's just look at this and call this My Courses. Again, we will delete that in a second. We just need to see what page we are on. All right, so now that we have that, let's test it out. Let's run the application. Let's click on My Courses. Notice it brings me here. Let's go back to the home page. Let's click on View Courses. It brings me to the course page. Perfect. Now that we did that, what we want to do is work with our different users. So create accounts, sign up, sign in, etc. So to set up our users is actually super simple when we're in Anvil. We don't even need to make our own custom login forms or anything like that. We don't even need to set up a database. Literally all we do is install kind of a service or a module for Anvil, and then that will actually pretty well do everything for us. We just kind of need to handle when we sign the user in or when we log them in. So I'm going to click on this little add button right here. And notice we have a bunch of different features, right? We can go with a Facebook API, a Microsoft API. Well, that's from the business plan. We have the Stripe integration. We have app secrets. We have all of this kind of stuff. But what I want is users. So make it easy to sign up and authenticate users of your app. Sounds like exactly what we want. When I do this, it's going to bring me to this page here, which pretty much explains everything I need to know about my users. So notice that we can sign in with a bunch of different ways, right? We can do it with Facebook, we can do it with Google, we could do it with an email link, or just with email and password. Now for now, I'll just toggle the ability to sign in with both the email and the password, or with your Google account. Of course, you could select Facebook if you want. It doesn't really change anything, just select the ones that you want. Okay, then we go to login options, require secure passwords, prevent users from changing passwords that are too short or that have been leaked online, or sorry, from choosing passwords, my bad, not changing. So let's do that. Remember login between sessions, sure, we can select that as well. And then we can change this option. Let's remember the login for 1 year. Share login status with other apps. Users logged into this app will automatically be logged into other apps sharing the same users table. They have this option enabled. I don't want that. And then require two-factor authentication. I'm not going to do that as well. Now we have allow visitors who sign up. Users can create their own accounts, otherwise need to manually create them. We would like users to make their own accounts, so we will do that. And then new user accounts can be used right away. Users can log in as soon as they've registered, otherwise you must check the enabled box. So the reason why you would want to undo this is if you need the user to go through some type of authentication process before you actually allow them to fully log in. Now we also have users need to confirm their email address by clicking a link before they use their accounts. So we'll select all of these for right now. And then notice it's going to show me what the users table looked like. So I have information like remember login, signed up, confirmed email, end password failures, password hash, all this kind of information. And again, I didn't need to do any of that. It literally just set it all up for me. Okay, so now it shows me how I can actually log the user in. So I have anvil.users.login with form. I also have an ability to sign up a user, and I have this ability to get a user. So if you've ever used Flask before, this is very similar when you kind of sign in the user and then the user gets stored in the current session. That's how it works here with Anvil. I just call get user, and then that gives me all the information stored in the users table. So let's start using some of these methods here. We're going to do this from the base page, and we're going to just call anvil.users.login with form, and I'll show you how it actually automates a login form for us. So let's go to code here. And actually, sorry, not code. Let's go to design. Let's click on sign in. And then for here, let's do something for the click button. So now inside of the click button, I'm just going to call anvil.users.login with form. And this should be all I need to actually allow me to log in a user. All right, so this looks good to me. Just note that up here, we're importing anvil.users. So for some reason, this doesn't work. Just make sure you have this import. You need to import that. Otherwise, this isn't going to work for you. And anyways, what I can do now is just run the code. And when I click on this sign in button, it should just allow me to sign in. So let's go to run. And now let's see, it says sign in. Okay. When I click on this, notice it says I can sign up for a new account by clicking that, or I can just sign in either with Google or with my email and password. Now I'm going to do this with Google. So let's go here. It automatically signs me in. Now that's because I only have one Google account that I've already put the password in for. If you had multiple, it would give you the Google options or your different account options. Then you could click them and sign in with the account that you want. Anyways, that is working, but we need some kind of indication that we're signed in. In fact, this sign in button should probably go away once we sign in, or it should show us kind of our user's name or our user's email or something like that. So let's actually go ahead and do that. I'm going to go now to my base template. I'm going to go to code, and I'm going to make something that actually changes the text for my sign in button based on, if we're signed in or not. Because also, if I'm signed in and I click on the sign in button again, I probably want to be able to sign out, right? Rather than just signing in with a different account, I need some way to log off or to sign out. So I'm going to go to sign in with click. And actually, that's not where I'm going to go first. I'm going to make a method first. I'm going to say define change sign. If I can type here in underscore text, this is going to take self. And what this is going to do is just check if a user is signed in. And if they are, it's going to change that sign in button. So I'm going to say user is equal to, and this is going to be anvil.users.get_user. This will give me access to all of the information in the users table. But what I can just do is say if user. Now, if we don't have a user signed in, this will return none to us. If we do have a user signed in, then what we can do is we can get their email and we can make that the text for the sign in button. So I'm going to say if user, then email is equal to user, and this will just be at email. The way we access stuff from our database tables is by just using a dictionary key like this. So I say user at email. It will give us the email. And then what I can do from here is change the text on that link. So I can say self.signin.text is equal to email like that. Otherwise, so if we are not signed in, then I want the self.signin.text to be equal to sign in like that. Okay, so now I just need to call this method. So what I'm going to do is as soon as I render this home page here, actually, we can do it before we render the home page. We'll just say self.change sign in text. And then what I also want to do is make it so that after I click the sign in button, I call this method, because once I've signed in, then this will have changed, right? We will have someone signed in, and so we need to change the text. So I'm going to say self.change sign in text. And I just call that again after we potentially sign in or maybe don't sign in. Okay, let's give this a shot here. So let's press run and let's see what we get now. Notice that sign in is like this. So I guess it didn't actually save my sign in, or maybe I've messed something up. I'm going to go to sign in though, and I'm going to sign in with Google, and let's see if it now changes to my email. Okay, perfect. So it does change to my email. Now we get this here. The other thing that I might want to change is just this icon, because this icon doesn't really make much sense now if I'm not signing in. So I'm going to do that. But first, let's see what happens if I click on this. And notice when I click on this, nothing is happening because I'm already signed in. So we will make it so that if you click on this, it allows you to sign out, but we'll do that after we change the icon or the logo. I keep calling it logo, but I mean icon. So let's go back here to the base page. Let's go to sign in. Let us go to our icon. And let's change this to something that kind of looks like an account. I'm just going to scroll through here. I had one on my other website that I liked, but I don't know what it was called. I want to say it's called account, but it doesn't look like it's called that. Do we have people? Do we have person? Do we have sign in? Okay. Let me check what the icon was, and then I'll be right back. All right. So the only thing I didn't guess, which is user, is what I will do here. So I will just go with the user icon, and then this will work for sign in as well as for if we are already signed in. Both of those work. Okay. So now that we've done that, let's go back to code, and let's make it so that if you click on this button and you're already signed in, it lets you log out. So I'm going to say let's say user is equal to, and then anvil.users.getUser like that. If we have the user, so if user, then we don't want to do that. So I'm going to say else like that. Instead, what we want to do is allow the user to sign out. So what I'm going to do here is actually ask the user if they want to log out. Now, the way I can do that is by using a built-in function called confirm. This will actually open kind of a dialog that will say, do you want to log out? And then they can click yes or no. And based on if they click yes or no, this will be true or false. So I'm going to say log out is equal to confirm. Would you like to log out? Question mark. And then I'm going to say if log out. So if they press the yes button, then this will be true. If they press the no button, it will be false. So the if statement won't run. So if log out, then I'm going to say anvil.users.log out like that. And then I'm not sure if there's anything else I want to do here. Actually, if they do log out, then what I will do is I will just bring them back to the home page. So I'm going to say self.contentpanel.clear and then self.contentpanel.add component, and then this will be home. Now that I'm thinking about it though, I can probably put this in a method because I'm doing this a ton. So I'm just going to make a method here, and I'm just going to say define go to _home. This will take in self. We'll just paste this in here, which allows us to go to the home page. Let's make sure our indentation is correct. And then what I will do is instead of this here, just call self dot and then go to home. And I do this a few other times as well. I do this right here. So let's just say self dot go to home. And then up here, we can say self dot and then go to home as well. Okay, that is all good. Let's now try this out and let's see if this lets me log out. Okay, so let's run the code and let's first sign in. Okay, so we're going to sign in with Google, brings me here. Let's click on this. Notice it says, do you want to log out? Let's click yes, and then it logs me out. Perfect, that is all good. The next thing that I want to do is just make it so this My Courses button only shows up if I'm signed in. Because really, how am I going to view my own courses if I'm not already signed into the account? That doesn't really make much sense. So we only want to show this button if we are signed in. So let's do that. We're going to go to change sign-in text. Is this where I want to do it? Let me look here and see where exactly we actually want to implement this functionality. So let's actually make a method here just to make this a bit more readable. And let's say define, and then let's say toggle underscore my underscore courses underscore link. And inside of here, we're just going to say that self dot and then my courses dot visible is equal to, and then this is going to be Anvil dot users dot get user, and this is going to be does not equal none. So what this is going to allow me to do is set the visibility equal to true, so we can see it if we are signed in, and if we're not signed in, then it will make it false. Now what I need to do though is I need to call this inside of the change sign-in text method, because whenever I'm changing the sign-in text, I also need to potentially change whether or not this button is visible. So I'm going to go here and say self dot, and then this will be, what do we even call this? Toggle my courses link. And now we should be good. Okay, so let's run this and let's see if this works. Notice that it's not showing the button because I'm not signed in. And then when I sign in, let's sign in with Google, you will see that it now shows me the My Courses button and changes this text. So now I can click on this and we are good to go. Okay, so now we have finished implementing the users. Hopefully you saw how easy that was to do. It was literally like 4 or 5 lines of code and a few button clicks to get the users working. And I'll just show you that if you click on this data tab right here, we have the users table. And inside of here, we can actually add fields to the table if we wanted to do that. So one field I'll add right now, because we're going to use this in a minute, is called purchased courses. And this is because we need something to keep track of what courses a user has purchased. So I'm going to add a simple object column. This allows me to add a Python object inside of here like a list. So let's add simple object. Let me scroll over so we can see this. And for the simple object, I'm just going to put a list for now, just an empty list. And that's all we need for this first user. Okay. That is good. Now what I will do is close this and we are going to start making our actual courses. So as I was saying before, what I want to do is I want to have a database that kind of stores all of my different products. In this case, they're courses, but for you guys, it could be an actual e-commerce product that you're selling. And what I want to put in there is the name of the course, the price of the course, the ID of the course, maybe an image for the course, pretty much any information related to it. So I can just grab all of that information right from my database. So I'm going to make a new table here inside of the database. I'm going to rename this and I'm just going to call this courses. Now we need a few columns for this course. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a text column and I'm just going to call this the name. Now what we can do is manually add the names of our courses. So the first course that I want is going to be JavaScript. And then the next course that I want is going to be Python. Now other than that, I want a price column. So I'm going to add a number column and I'm going to call this price. Now for the JavaScript course, we'll go with $37.99. And for Python, we can go with $49.99. And also feel free to add a lot more items as well. I'm just going to go with 2 because we don't need a ton right now, but you can add more if you want, obviously. Next, we have the name, we have the price. We're going to want a date time column for when we created this course. And what we can do is, if I right click on this, I should be able to actually insert a date time. Okay, perfect. So I can insert a date time by just clicking on this. For the time, I don't know, I'll just select a random time. It doesn't really matter what it is. So let's go with this. That's the time that we created these 2 courses. Perfect. After created, the next thing that I want is the description of the course. So I will just say for here, learn JavaScript and become a pro. Did I spell this wrong? Yes, I did. Okay. And then I will say learn Python and become a master. Okay. Just random stuff, just so we have some content. Other than description, the other thing that I wanted was actually the image for this course. So I'm going to add a media column. And here I can add like a file or an image or something. So I'm going to find 2 images in a second and add them here. But for now, I'll call this image. And then lastly, I want to have something called my ID name. Now, the point of this is just to be a lowercase version of the actual display name so that I can easily reference this course. So I'm going to say JavaScript, and I'm going to say Python. Again, the whole point of this is just to have a lowercase version so that I don't have to get the capitalization correct on my courses, which could have, multiple words, different capitalization, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a break here, find an image for both JavaScript and Python, and then I will upload them here, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've just uploaded the 2 images that I'm going to use here as kind of the cover image for both of these courses. Doesn't really matter what these images are. I've just found some ones that are decent sizes. And if you want these exact same images, then you just need to clone this application. Again, I'll leave the link down in the description. When you click on it, it will open a new Anvil workspace that will have these images and have pretty much everything that I've worked on in the entire tutorial. Anyways, we now have the courses database. So we are kind of good to continue here. Now, what I want to do is start talking about the server side of our Anvil application. So right now, we've just been working on the client side. We've been doing front-end code, and that's fine for now. However, we need a way to actually access the fields in our database, and we want to do that from the server. So we want to set up kind of a module or maybe an API, if you want to call it, on our server that gives us information about our courses. Now, the reason we want to do this on the server is because whenever we're accessing information from a database or something that we don't want the client to be able to modify or change, we need to do that from the server, because if we do it from the client, then they could potentially modify this code. They could do something malicious. So whenever security is important, you want to be doing that type of operation on the server and then just calling or sending a request to the server from the front end to perform that operation. So what I'm going to do here is make a new server module. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call this course details. Now, this module is going to allow me to get the details of the different courses that I have from my database. We're going to set up a few different API calls here, or routes, or methods, or whatever you want to call them, that allow us to get, 1, all of the different courses and their information, 2, the price of a specific course. We're going to use this when we're at checkout and we're trying to charge the user. And then 3, just get information about one specific course. We want all 3 of those different routes. We're going to use all of those. Now you can see here that to make something that's callable on the server, you use anvil.server.call as a decorator above a function. So this is an example right here. Let me uncomment this. You can see that this is actually callable, from the front end, because we have anvil.server.callable, which means we can use kind of this specific function, which is anvil.server.call, to actually call this and get the data from it securely. So I'm going to change the name of this to say get_course_details, like that. And then inside of here, I'm going to say return. And I'm going to say app tables, which is going to reference my database tables. Then this is going to be .courses. And then this will be, I got to look at my other thing here, .client readable. Now, what this allows you to do is actually return a readable view to the front end of your website. So it can read all of the information about the courses, but it cannot change it. So whenever you want to get all the info, you just return client readable. This means that, again, the client can read this information, but they can't change it. They can't modify it. That's what you want. However, if you were to return something like client writable, you can read what this says, but return a view on this table that can be written by client code, use keyword arguments to specify view restrictions. This does not give client write access to other tables referred to by this table. So you can read what that says. It's pretty straightforward. But the point is that whenever you have information that you don't want the client to be able to change, then you return readable. If it says something like the client's name or their email or something that they maybe could change, that's fine for them to modify, then you would return client writable, and you could change how the view is writable by adding keyword arguments. I'm not going to go through that, but there is a ton of tutorials on the Anvil website that show you how to do that. And in fact, I'll just mention now, if you want to do something that I'm not showing you here, Anvil most likely has documentation and tutorials for it. In fact, if I go here, you can see that there is a bunch of tutorials. Oops, I didn't mean to open that. And if I go here, you can click on the different tutorials, and then you can also just look up the documentation. I think there's docs right here. Yeah, if I click on that, it brings you in here and it shows you pretty much everything you can do. Okay, so let's go back. we have this view that we want. I'm just going to get rid of all of this. And I'm going to show you now how we can call this and how we can kind of view the information that's being returned from it. So we've done this on the server side. What I'm going to do now is go to my courses page. And on the my courses page, what I want to do in the init is I want to load all of my courses from the database. So for now, let's just write a method. And let's call this define load underscore courses like that. Let's put a self inside of here. And then what we're going to do is the following. We're going to say courses is equal to anvil.server.call. And then what you do is you put as a string the name of the method on the server you want to call. So if I go to course details, this is called get course details. Sorry, we should remove name from here. We don't want name as a parameter. And then if I go here, I just put that. And what this does is call that function. Now, let's say you had some parameters you wanted to pass. All you would do is put a comma, and then you would pass all the parameters. So if there was a name there, then I would say, name of course, whatever, right? And if there was a keyword argument, I could do something like k, like this, is equal to 2. That would be fine. It would pass that as a keyword argument to the function. Okay, so now we have courses. What I'm going to do is just print courses and show you what this looks like for right now. So what we'll do is we'll load the courses. So self.load courses like that, right when we load the my courses page. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you've got that code down. Let's run. Now let us sign in, and let's go sign in with Google. Okay, let's click on my courses, and then notice if I go to run app console, we get a live object anvil.tables.table. Now that is because this is a special object that Anvil is returning to us representing the database table. If I actually want to be able to view the information, I need to use a method on this called .search. Now, it actually shows you what this does. It says get rows from this data table. If you specify keyword arguments, you will retrieve only rows whose columns match those values. So let's add .search here, and now let's see what we get. And if this is actually going to work for us, we might need to iterate over this. And let's go to sign in. Let us sign in. Let's go to my courses. And now notice we're getting the search iterator. So an iterator is something that we can loop through in a for loop. So what this means is that if I want to actually get the information from this iterator, I need to iterate over it. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I just realized here that I'm actually inside of the wrong courses module. This is my fault for naming them so similarly, but I'm going to copy this code. So load courses and I guess just load courses. And I'm going to put this inside of courses rather than load courses. Or sorry, my courses, because my courses is going to be my courses, whereas courses is going to be all of the different courses you could purchase. So we want to start with this one, and then we'll go over to my courses after. So I'm just going to copy this in here. So now we have what we had before, and I'm going to loop through this iterator now, and let's just print out some information about the courses. So I'm going to say for course in courses, and what this should do is give me one row of the database. So each row will be one course. And then what I can do here is just start by printing something like the course and then the name and see if we get the different courses that we want. So now let's run. And we don't actually need to sign in to do this. We can just click on my courses and notice we get JavaScript and we get Python as the two names of our course. So now that we've accessed this information, we need some way to display it. Now, all of our courses are going to be displayed in the same way, right? We're going to have an image, we're going to have a description, we're going to have a button that says the price. And when you click on that, it's going to bring you to another page. So what I'm actually going to do is set up a new form here. And this form is going to be an individual component that I'm going to use to represent a single course. So I'm going to make a blank panel. So what I'm going to start with here is a panel. So I'm going to import my panel. Let's call this the content underscore panel. Okay, let's add an image. We will just call this the image, like that. Let's import a label. So we'll put a label inside of the panel. I'm just going to add some text to it so we can see it. So let's just call this description. And then we'll say this is going to be description like that. Now we want this description to be in the middle. So I'm going to go to text. I'm going to do align center. For the font size, let's go with 20. That looks like a decent size to me. And I don't think we need anything else for that. And then we will add a button. So let's add a button right underneath here. This button I'm going to call buy. Now this is going to just be align center. Okay, we'll make it bold. We will make the font size 20 as well. We won't underline it, but for the role, I will go with primary color. And then that should be good for now. I think that's all I need. So I have my what do you call it? I have my button, I have my label, and for some reason, I think my button's inside of my label. So let me try to pull that out. Okay, maybe not. Maybe the label's just overlapping the button. Okay, you know what? That's fine for now. I think that's fine. Let's make sure they're named good. We have by, description, and image. Perfect. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this component here into a custom component. Now, see how it says use as custom component? What this allows me to do is pass values to this when I create it so that I can actually fill in this, what I'm going to call course item in a second, with the information for a specific course. So the idea is, rather than me making like 4 or 5 of these for all of the different courses that I'm going to have, I'll have kind of one standard layout, and all of my courses will be represented in this way. So I'm going to say use as custom component. I'm going to say make this form available as a custom component. I'm going to add a property. Specifically, I'm going to add 3 properties. Now, these properties are what I want to pass to this component when I create it. So the first property I'm going to call is the name. This will be the name of the course. The next one that I want is going to be the image. And then I also want the by button, or we'll just call this the button underscore callback. Now, the idea is I need to pass some function here that's going to be called when I press the by button. So we're going to have to set that up in a second, but let's change this from a string to be a object. The object will just be the function to call when buying course, or when we'll go with clicking course button. Okay. That's fine. Now for the image, this is going to be can I make this a media? Let's go with object. I think I can pass an image as an object here. That will be fine. And then let's go with name. Name will be a string. The default value will be nothing. And then I also want description. So let's make this the description like that. And that will be a string as well. Now, I just realized that I probably want a title or kind of like a name of this as well. So let's add a label at the very top, and let's call this the name. Now, for the content, I'll just make it name for now, just so we can see it. Let's make sure this goes in the middle. So let's go align center. Font size, want this to be fairly large. So let's make that 30. And then do I want to make it bold? Let's see if I can do that. Let's go to advanced. And actually, you know what? I'm fine with that bold for right now. I could do that if I want, but we don't need it to be bold. Okay, so that is going to be our course item. So let's rename this here to be a course item. Now notice that beside it, we're getting this little icon, which represents as a custom component. So I'm going to show you how we use this, but this is going to make our life a lot easier. So I'm going to go to courses now, and I'm going to import this course item. I'm going to say from ... course item, import course item. Now, just for kind of example purposes right now, I'm just going to load one course item on the screen just so you can see how we do that. So I'm going to say self.contentPanel.add component, and this is going to be a course item. Now, what I need to pass to this course item is going to be the name, the description, the image, etc. So for now, let's just pass a name. So let's go with name is equal to, and we'll just call this Python. Now, I'm also realizing at this point, we probably need a price as well for this course, or actually more specifically, something that we want to put on the button. So I'm going to go back to course item for 1 second, and I'm just going to make another property. So I'm going to go configure custom component. I'm going to add a property here, and I'm going to call this the button text. So just what do we want to be on our button? Okay, so let's close that. Let's go back to courses, and let's go here and say button underscore text will be equal to buy for $39.99. We'll put a $sign. What else do we want? We need the image. I won't pass that for right now. We'll go with name, button text. We'll go description equals the best course, exclamation point. And then the button callback, I won't pass either. I'll show you how we do that in a second. So let's go to course details now. And sorry, not course details, course item. And let's go to the code, and let me show you now how I kind of take all of these properties in and actually set the different elements that we have here equal to those properties. So inside of my initialization here, I'm going to take in a name, I'm going to take in a description, and I'm going to take in a button text, and we'll take in a few other things as well, but for now, that's all we want. Then what I'm going to do is say self.name is equal to name, and this is going to be name.text. text actually. I'm going to say self.description.text is equal to description. And I'm going to say self dot, and this will be by dot, and then text is equal to button text. And that's all we need for right now. So now what's going to happen is if I go back to courses here, when I add this course item, and let's just make this a variable to make this easier. Let's say C is equal to that. It will take the name, the button text, and the description, and then update whatever I set as the default values here to be equal to those, right? So that's kind of the point of this. So let's just try this out for now and see if this works. And then we'll continue from there. So let's go run. Let's go view courses. And then notice we have name, description, and buy for $39.99. Looks like I messed something up. It says course item has a method or attribute name and a component called name. This method or attribute will be inaccessible. Okay, that makes sense. The reason why I'm getting this problem is because what I named the property is the same as what I named kind of the element. So I need to rename the element so that it doesn't match with the property that I passed in. Guess that's a decent error to run into. So then you guys don't run into that yourselves. So let's go to course item and let's change this. I'm going to call this name underscore label. Okay, just to make that a bit more clear. Okay, name underscore label, that's fine. Image, we'll call this image underscore, I don't know, let's go with content. For description, we'll go with description underscore label. And then for buy, we can leave it at this, but I'm just going to change this to button because I think that's better, assuming we spell it correctly. Okay, so now let's go back into the code here and let's change this. So this is going to be name underscore label. This is going to be description underscore label. And this is going to be button, like that. Okay, so let's try this now and let's see if this works. Okay, let's go view courses. And now notice, again, we're getting the same problem. Name, description, buy for $39.99. Looks like for some reason we're not updating that. So let me take a look at why this is happening and I'll be right back. All right, so it looks like the problem that we're getting is that I was trying to use text for my labels when instead for the rich text, I want to use content. Now notice I can actually click on these right here and it shows me all of their properties. So I have my name label and I need to use content rather than using text. So I'm just going to change this to content like that. And I'm going to change this to content as well. And then this should be good. Okay, so let's run this and let's see what we get. View courses. Notice we have Python, the best course, and then $39.99. Awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. Now we will continue and hopefully make all of this a bit nicer. So I'm going to go into the design of my course item here. And for my content panel, I'm just going to go to role and I'm going to change this to a card. Now notice how it kind of raises it up a bit and adds a bit of a border. That's going to look a bit nicer. So we'll go with that for right now. And then let's go back to our courses. Let's go to design and let's just get rid of this label here because I no longer want that inside of here. Okay, perfect. So now courses, let's go to code and let's use this inside of here to actually render our different course items. So let me go here. Let me just copy this and let me get rid of this. And let's do the following. We're going to say C is equal to course item. It's going to be name. And instead of name equal to Python, this is going to be course like that. And then name. And then the button text is going to be equal to, we're going to use an F string. And we're going to say that this will be purchase for, and then we'll have a $sign. And then we want the price of the course. So this is going to be course and then at price. Then for the description, this is going to be course description like that. And then we need to add an image. So we're going to say image is equal to, and this will be course at image. And then the other thing that we want is we want the button callback as well as, do we have something else? I forget if we have something else that we need to pass there. Let me just close this so we have a bit more room. Let's go back to course item. Let's have a look. We have our button, we have our description, we have our image, we have our name. Nope, that looks like that's all we need. So that should be good. And then we have our button underscore callback, which for now, I'm just going to make equal to none, but we will fill this in with the function that we want to call when we press on that button in a minute. Okay, so we have C. Now what I'm going to do is add this to the component, or add this to the content panel, sorry. So self.contentpanel.add component. I'm going to add C, and that should be good. All right, so now that we've done that, I just want to hop over to course item, And I need to make it so that now we're going to add the image as well as something else that we passed that was new, the button callback, although we don't need to do that this second. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say self.image underscore content is equal to image. And I'm going to now take in the image as well here. So I'm going to say image, and I'm going to take in the button underscore callback as well. Okay, so we have name, description, button text, image, and button callback. We now should be assigning all of those when we set the course items. We're going to add all of the different courses that we have as course items. And we're getting a syntax error here. It's saying bad input. I think that's to do with the indentation. So let me see if I can fix that. I think, what's wrong here? Am I messing up a bracket? So I see the problem here. It is the fact that I have double quotation marks inside of double quotation marks. So I just have to change the price here inside of my F string to use single quotation marks, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so let me run this here, and let's see if this is going to work for right now. Okay, so it looks like we got an error. We got bad input. And if I scroll up here, we can see that's on this line. So let's click on that. It's going to bring me here, and it's saying that this is a problem. All right, so it looks like I forgot a comma, classic rookie mistake. So let's add that right here. I also realized that I need to change this to say source. So self.image content needs to have source after it. Okay, apologize about the errors, guys, but that is just part of developing. Let us run the code, and let's see if we're able to fix this. And let's go to view courses. And now notice we have JavaScript and we have Python. Perfect. The only problem is these are quite large and they're taking up one row each. So instead of having them taking up one row, one row each, I want them to just be on one single row. So we have kind of JavaScript, and then right beside it, we have Python. So I'm going to show you how we can do that, how we can kind of align the two different elements here, or the two different components. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to go to courses. And we have courses like this. We're getting the course item. We're adding this to the content panel. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create what's known as a grid panel, and I'm going to add my courses into the grid panel and then render the grid panel in the main content panel. So I'm going to say the following. I'm going to say course and then underscore panel is equal to, and this will just be grid panel. You don't need to import anything. You can just say grid panel like that. Now this allows me to pick the row and column that I want to insert an item at. So now, rather than self.content panel, we'll just call this course panel like that. So now after we pass the component that we want to render in the panel, I need to choose what row and how long or how wide this component should be. So I'm going to say row is equal to, and right now I'll just go with 0, but I'm going to change that in 1 second. And I'm going to say call underscore XS equals 6. Now what this is actually saying is when the screen is extremely small or larger than extremely small, XS stands for extra small, then I want this element here to take up 6 columns of the 12 possible columns in a row. So it's a little bit confusing if you've never seen this before, but in a grid, we have 12 columns. Now we can have a component taking up any number of those 12 columns. So I want this to take up 6 of the 12 columns, which means we can have 2 components in each row. So I'm going to place 2 components on each row. Each of them is going to take up half of the row, which means that if I have more than 2 components, they can't all be on row 0. So the first 2 will be on row 0, the next will be row 1, the next will be row 2, etc., etc. So the way I need to fix this is I need to say for I, course in, and then this is going to be enumerate, and this will be courses. So this way we can get access to the index as well. And I'm going to say that this is going to be the string of, and then this will be I divided by 2, or I mod 2. Now, I think that's correct. Let me just look at my cheat sheet over here. That looks good to me. So the idea here is as soon as we get to the second item or the second index, that will be the third item, which means that that will then move on to row number 1 because 2 integer divided by 2 is 1. Whereas when we have the first item, which is index 0, and the second item, which is index 1, then we're going to be on row 0. So this will just update based on the number of the item that we're on. Hopefully that makes sense. But now that we have that, we need to add the course panel to the content panel. So I'm going to say self.content panel like this, dot, and then this will be add component, and we'll add the course panel like that. And I think that's pretty much all that we need. So let me go to home, or I actually don't need to go to home, but I'm just going to run the page now. And let's see if we're getting our layout a little bit nicer. So let's go to view courses. And now notice we have Python and we have JavaScript. It's a little bit messed up. So let me take a look at what's going wrong here, but we should be able to fix this fairly easily. So I've made a little bit of a mistake here. I've said call underscore XS when instead I wanted to say with XS. What I was explaining before was the width. I just had call there instead. So we need to go with width underscore XS, and this will then set the width of that item. As you can see before, we had kind of messed it up. When I said call XS equals 6, what that meant is start in the 6th column. And so that's why we were getting that problem. Okay, let's try this now and let's see if this is good. And let's go view courses. And that is much better. Nice. And we're getting a little bit of spacing between these two courses. Now what we need to do is we need to make it so when we click these buttons, something is actually going to happen. All right, so let's get out of this here. Let's stop this application. And let's now make a checkout page that allows us to buy a specific course. So what I'm going to do is go to app. I'm going to make a new form. We're going to go blank panel. And we're going to call this checkout. So let's rename this to checkout like that. Now let's just start designing what the checkout's going to look like. And then after that, we can make it dynamic so we can pass the price and all the stuff we did like with course item. So let's start by adding 2 column panels here. I actually want these column panels to be side by side. So where's this? I'm going to go to the other side of it. So notice they're taking up half the screen. The first panel here, I guess I can just leave it as column panel 1. That's fine. This is going to display the information about the course that you're purchasing. So we'll have the name, the image, the description. Then to the right side, I'm going to have the price of the course. You know, it's a rating, it's money back guarantee thing. And then we'll have a buy button. We'll also have a back button that allows you to go back to view the rest of the courses. So inside of this first panel right here, I just want to make this a card. So I'm going to say card like that. Let's make this guy a card as well. And now let's add a label. And this label is going to be the name. Okay, so we'll say name underscore label like we did before. Now for the content, we can just put name right now. That's fine. We want to make this in the middle. So let's go to layout. Let's go to text, center, font size. Maybe 24 is fine. That's okay for right now. Then under there, I want an image. So let's go with image like that. Let us call this image underscore content. And we want to have a source this second. And then we will have more text. This does not need to be rich text. It can just be a regular label. And we will call this self.description underscore label. For the text, we'll just make this be description. We'll align it in the center. And for the font size, I want a bit smaller. Let's make it right here. Let's make it maybe 14, just so it's a little bit easier to read. Okay, so this will be information about the course. Then on this side, it's going to be purchasing the course. So let's add a rich text label here. And let's call this, actually, I don't want to make this rich text. Let's just make this a regular text label. So let's add regular text right here. Let's call this the price underscore label. For the text, let's go with buy, or actually we can just put the price, I guess. We'll go with $49.99 just as some filler text. Let's make this bold. Let's make it nice and large. Let's make it size 45. Let us make it in the middle as well. And then, do we want to underline it? That's fine for right now. Okay, so $49.99. Under there, I want to put the rating. So I'm going to go with we're going to go with a label. And we're going to have to go with a bunch of labels because each one of these labels is just going to have an icon, and this icon will be a star. So I'm going to go to my icon here, and I'm going to say star. So we'll put a star like that. And that should be fine, but I want to make this star a bit bigger. So I guess we'll have to go with font. I'm curious if I make the font bigger. Okay, it does make the star bigger. So let's go with font maybe 30. Okay. Now let's copy this label and let's paste it. And let's put it on the same line as this. And let's do this 5 times. We're just going to say it has a 5-star rating to start. So let's add that in. Oops, want this over here. Okay. And one more. We'll go right there. Perfect. So we now have our 5 stars. I could try to make these a bit smaller. Nah, you know what? That looks fine to me. Let's add some more text. This will go right underneath. Let's call this rating in lowercase. And then for the text, we'll say 5 like this, 5-star rating, exclamation point. Make that bold. Make that in the center, make that a bit bigger. Let's go 24. I keep putting in the wrong thing. Let's go 24. Okay, nice. And then underneath this, I want to have a buy now button that is nice and large. So let's go with a button. Let's go right here. Let's make this the secondary color. So let's go to role. Let's go secondary color. We want this to say buy in all capitals now, exclamation point. That will be bold, and the font size will be 40. And ideally, I would like to make these the same size. So let's actually add a spacer in here. The way that we can do that is we can take a spacer and just put it right in between, and then we can make that a little bit smaller. And then these should hopefully be the same size. Now, I could also add some more text here. I'm just keeping it simple. Doesn't look exactly like the demo, but that's fine. You guys can modify this if you want. So now we have the buy now button. I'm going to actually call this the buy button, like that. We have this right here. Oops, how did I do that? I didn't mean to drag that out. Okay, let's put that back inside there. Okay, go back in the card. There we go. This is called the price label. This is our buy button. This is the 5-star rating. This is our description. This is our image. This is our name, and we're all good. Okay, so the point of this checkout now is that we want this to be dynamic. So this will work for any single product or course. So I'm going to make this a custom component. I'm going to make this form available as custom component. Add property. We need the name of the course. We need we're going to go with price of the course. We need, this is going to be number. Other than price, we're going to need the description. And actually, you know what? I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to get rid of all of these, and I'm just going to take the ID name of this. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to call from the checkout my server to give me information about this specific course. So rather than passing it all through, all I need to do is just have the name of it. I pass the name to the checkout, and the checkout will get the information from the server. That's going to be a better workflow for us. So we'll do that in 1 second. I do want to add a button here though. And this button, I want to allow us to go back to the view courses page. So I'm just going to call this the back_button, like that. Oops, back button. Okay, now what I want the text to be is just back. Okay, now for align, yeah, we'll make that center. We'll make this the primary color, and we'll add an icon as well that goes back. So I think there should probably be a back. Actually, let's just go arrow. And then like that, and that kind of represents that we're going to go back. Nice. We'll add the binding for that in a second. So when we click it, it will do something. For now, let's go to code. Okay, so I'm inside of here now. What I want to do is I want to call the server and get information about a specific course. That course is going to be the ID name. Now, the ID name is just going to be the ID name of the course that I want to get the information about. But let me go to course details here, and let's change this from get course details to get all courses. And then let's make another function here. Let me just copy this. And this will be called get, and then course, and then details, like that. Okay, so inside of here, what I'm going to do is return information about one specific course, not about all of them. So instead of this, I'm going to say .get, and this is going to be get, and then course_name, and I need to take in a course name here. Okay, I think that's all I need. Actually, I need to change this to say ID_name, just so that we know we're referencing the ID name call. So if you want to get one specific row from the database, then what you do is you put the name of the column you want to query by, which is ID name, and then the value you're querying with. So in this case, it's going to be the course name. This will give me one row, so I can then return that. Anyways, I need to change a few things now because I renamed this to get all courses. So I'm going to go to, where is it? Courses, like this. And I'm going to now change this call to say get all courses. Okay, so that's good for that. Now that we have that, I'm going to go to course item, or not course item. I'm going to go to, where were we? Checkout. All right, so now I'm in the code for checkout. So what I'm going to do is just take in the ID name here, which we need to pass to the checkout. I'm going to make a method, and I'm going to call this method update_form. This will just take in self and ID name. And then what we'll do is we'll update the values in our checkout based on what we get for the information for the course. So I'm going to say self.updateForm. I'm going to pass this the ID name. I'm now going to call my Anvil server. So I'm going to say course is equal to anvil.server.call. We will call the get course details, and then we'll pass the ID name. Okay, now we can update all of our fields. So let's start with the name, self.name.text. And this is going to be name_label is equal to, and then this will be course at, and then name, like that. You can see my cat has decided to join me here. Next, we're going to go with self dot, and then this will be description label dot text is equal to course at, and then description. Then we're going to have self.price underscore label dot text is equal to, and this will be an F string. And inside of here, we're going to put a $sign. So let's do that. And then this will be course at price and then USD. Okay, and then what else do we have? We have the image. So self.image content.source is equal to course at image. Okay, so that should now update our checkout. So that is all good. The next thing that we need to do is we need to make it so that when we click the buy button, it actually does something, right? It allows us to buy. Now, we can't quite implement that yet because we need to do the Stripe checkout, but I will add the method for that. So let's go to buy now and let's go to click. And now we have the buy click method. So when you click that, it should actually bring up the Stripe integration thing and allow you, to buy this. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement the back button. So what we're actually going to need to pass here is something to the checkout that allows us to go back. Seems a little bit weird, but we need something that's going to kind of delete this checkout component and go back to where we were. So what I need to also take here is back. So we're just going to say back underscore button underscore callback, which means when you press on the back button, what do we do? Well, we're just going to call this function. So let's go to design. Let's click on our back button and let's go to click. And then what we're going to do is pass a function to here, which will be called back button callback. And I will say self.back underscore button underscore callback like that. That's all we'll do inside of here. We'll just call whatever was passed. Now I need to add my comma again because I keep forgetting that. And now we are good with the checkout. Now we can't quite show the checkout because we need to actually pass the correct information to it. So let's go to our course item. Would it be course item? I don't know if it's going to be course item. I actually think it's going to be in courses. And notice how in courses, what we actually need to do when we create a course item is we need to pass a button callback. Now the button callback is what happens when you press on this button right here. So we need to now pass a function to course item that we can press or we can call when we click on that button. So I'm going to go to design here. I'm going to go to button 1 and I'm going to make a click. So I'm going to go here and I'm just going to say self dot, and then this is going to be button callback, and we're just going to call that. That's it. And remember here, we're taking button callback. Okay, so let's go to courses. And now let's create that function that we want to pass alongside every single course item that brings us to the checkout. So I'm going to say define, and I'm going to say, let's go render underscore checkout. Now this is going to be self, and this will take in our course underscore name. Okay. Now what we will do here is we will simply say self.contentPanel.clear, and then self.contentPanel. And then this is going to be add component. And the component that we're going to add is actually the checkout, and we're going to pass to the checkout the course name. So we're going to say course name. We also need to pass the function that we want to call when we go back, which means that I need to make a back function. I understand this is confusing. I'm going to stop in a second and go through all of it, but let's just code out some stuff right now. So I'm going to say define back, self, and this is just going to say self.contentPanel.clear, and then self dot, and then load courses like that. Okay. Now here, I'm going to pass self.back like that. Lastly, I need to import my checkout. So I'm going to say from ... checkout, import checkout. Okay, so let's just take a quick pause and then we will continue. What we've done is we've made this back button. Now what this function does is it's going to clear the content panel and then just reload the courses. The point of this is that from this component, from the courses component, we are actually going to be showing the checkout. So just like the base page is showing the home page shows us the courses page, and the courses page now shows us the different individual courses. When we click an individual course, it's going to load the checkout from this component. And then if we want to unload the checkout, so go back to the courses page, we need to get rid of that from the screen. So we clear that from the content panel, and then we reload the courses on the screen. Great. Now what the render checkout method or function, whatever you want to call it, is going to do is it's going to be passed to our individual course items as the button callback. So when we pass this function there and then we press the button to purchase the course, it's going to clear the content panel and then render the checkout for that specific course. That's why we created the checkout, right? So we'll pass the course name and we'll pass what we need to do if we click the back button, which is call this function right here, and then we will be all good. Okay, so hopefully that makes a tiny bit of sense. What I want to do now is actually implement the button callback for my course item. So what I'm going to do is go here and I'm going to say button underscore callback is equal to, and then this is going to be self dot, and then this will be render checkout. Now I'm not going to call render checkout. I'm just going to pass the render checkout object, which is a function, so that I can then call that function from inside of my course item. So let's go to course item now. And what I want to do is for my button click, I want to say self dot button callback, and then I want to actually pass to the button callback the name of the course that I want to render the checkout for. So I'm going to say self dot, and then I'm actually just going to use the, let's go with name underscore label, and then this is going to be dot lower. Now, actually, sorry, dot text, and then dot lower. So the idea is that I'm storing the name inside of my name label. So I'll just grab whatever that name is, and then I'm going to convert it to dot lower. The reason I'm making it dot lower is because from my checkout, I use the ID name, right? I don't use the, the actual display name. And so I'm just going to use the ID name to get access to the course because I know that is in all lower cases. Okay, hopefully that makes a tiny bit of sense. Let's run this and then I'll do a quick recap of what we've done so far. So I'm going to run. We're going to go view courses. We're going to click purchase and we get an error. It says rich text object has no attribute text. My bad. We've made this mistake before. I just need to change text to content. So let's go back to course item and notice we're using .text. We're just going to use content like that. Now let's run and let's see what we get. Okay, so let's click view courses. Let's go purchase and none type object is not callable. Okay, we're getting an error here. I guess that is from self.button callback. So it's saying button callback is equal to none. I'm not sure why we're getting that. Okay, I'm sure now. The reason why we're getting that is because I'm not storing the button callback. So I need to say self.button callback is equal to button callback so that from inside of here, when I try to access it, I still have it. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Just because we weren't storing that, we're only passing it as a parameter. Now what I'm going to do is press run, and let's try this again. Okay, let's go to view courses. Let's click purchase. Notice it brings me to the checkout. It says $37.99 for JavaScript. Now, the back button callback is not working for some reason, so let's go and fix that inside of checkout. Okay, so inside of checkout, we have, where are we? We are calling the back button callback. It looks like the back button callback we are never storing. So I'm going to say self.back button, and then this is going to be callback. Okay, back button callback is equal to back button callback. But I also am not sure if we're actually passing back button callback to the checkout. So let's try this. Where are we? Let's go to courses. Courses. Where's courses? Right here. Okay. Now inside of our render checkout, we're saying self.back. Okay, that is what we want. So let's now run this and let's see if this works when we go back. Okay, so let's go view courses. Let's try to view the Python course. Okay, let's go back and checkout object has no attribute back button callback. Okay, I thought I fixed that problem, but let's try this again and see what we're getting. Okay, so we have self dot back button. I spelled it incorrectly. Of course, that's the mistake. Okay, let's run it again and let's hope it's going to work this time. The app has changed since you ran it. Click here to restart. Okay, let's restart. That's fine. Okay, view courses, go here, go back. It brings us back. Perfect. So this is all working. Now what we need to do is set up the buying and the ability to view our different courses once we are signed in. We're in the home stretch here. If you've made it this far, let's keep going. We are almost done. All right, so we're back in the code. We're going to continue now, and we're going to make it so we charge the user when they click on the Buy Now button using Stripe. First thing we're going to need to do before we do this is integrate with Stripe. So I'm going to click on the Add button here. I'm going to click on Stripe, and then it's going to open up this page right here. All right, so what you can do from this page once you've added Stripe is you can connect a Stripe account. Now, you don't need to do this, and I'm not going to do this. And when you don't do that, it just by default will run this in test mode, which means you're not actually going to charge anybody. It's just giving you the dialogues and simulating you charging people, but it won't actually charge any money. If you do want to charge, you need to connect a Stripe account. There's not really anything different that you need to do. You just have to do a bunch of stuff through the Stripe website and then connect the Stripe account. I won't explain that. It's pretty intuitive. For now, let's continue. Okay, so we're at the checkout, and when we click the buy button, we need to make sure we're signed in before we allow the user to buy, because if they buy something and they're not signed in, we have no way to associate this product with their account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if we have a user signed in. So I'm going to say if, and then anvil.users.getUser equals none. Then what I need to do is ask them to log in. So I'm going to say anvil.users. And then log in with form. I believe that's what we had. Then what I'm going to do down here is check again if they're logged in, because they could potentially not log in from this form. So I'm going to say if, and then we'll go with anvil.users.get_user equals none. Then I want to pop up a dialog window telling them that they need to sign in and to try again. So I'm just going to say, I guess, do we want confirm? I think I have something for info. One second. Let me do this. Okay, we have an alert that we can use, and we can use the alert that says, please sign in, ! And then we can just return from here. So pretty much by the time we get past this return statement, we know that we have a user signed in. So now that we know that we have a user signed in, we want to bring up the Stripe dialog that asks them to input their payment information and then allow them to pay. So I'm just going to say that user is equal to Anvil, and then this will be users like this dot get user. And in fact, we can actually do this right above this if statement, and then we can put user instead of Anvil dot get user again. So then down here, I'm going to first check before I actually let them pay if they already own the course. So remember on our user table, where would that be? Right here, we have this new field that I added called column8. I want to call this purchased_courses. Good job, we checked that. So make this called purchase courses, and then this is a simple object that's going to have a list inside of it. The point of this is it's going to store the names of courses that we have access to. So in this case, in checkout, I'm going to check if the user already owns this specific course. So I'm going to just go up here, and I'm going to say self.course_name is equal to ID name, just so that I have that access in an attribute, and I can then use that down here. And I'm going to say if user, and then this is going to be purchased_courses. So I'm just checking to make sure they have this attribute, and we're going to say self dot, and then this is going to be course name is in user, and then purchased_courses. Then what I want to do is I want to alert them that they already own this course. So I'm going to say alert, and if we could spell alert correctly, that would be great. And then you already own this course, ! And then again, we will return. So this is another check to make sure that, that the user doesn't already own the course before they purchase it. All right, so now that we've got through this, we've checked that the user does not already own the course and they are signed in. We're going to import Stripe. So just going to say import Stripe like this. Again, you need to add Stripe for this to work. And then we're going to charge the user using Stripe. So we're going to say token, info is equal to, and this is going to be Stripe dot, and I got to check, not strike, but Stripe dot. And I believe this is just checkout. And this is going to be .get_token. The amount is going to be equal to the self dot, and then course at price. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here, and notice how it says course here. I'm just going to say self.course is equal to course. So now we have access to all of the course information from this course variable, which actually means I don't need to put the course name here. I can instead, when we check for the course name, I can say self.course and then just ID_name like that. That's going to be a lot better. Anyways, point is we can now say self.course price. That is going to be how much we want to charge them. Then after this, there's a few other things we need to pass. We need to pass the currency, which is going to be in USD. We then want to pass the title, which is going to be equal to the course title. So I'm just going to say course like that. And then this will be the name. So we can go like that. Then we're going to get the description. So I'm going to say the description is equal to, and then this will be course at, and then description. If I can get this inside of the correct square brackets. So let's do that. This also needs to be self.course. And let me close this so we have a bit more room. Okay, come on, close that. Nice. So we have token info equals stripe.checkout.get token, amount self.course price, currency USD, title course name. Description is, sorry, this needs to be self.course as well. Description is going to be self.course and then description. And that's actually all we need for right now. Now, what this is actually going to do is it's going to pop up a checkout window that's going to collect all of the payment information from the user. Then it's going to store that payment information using something called a token. The token is just kind of a unique string essentially that we can pass to the back end of our server, and then the server will actually charge the user. The reason why we need this is because it's not safe to charge the user from the front end. We can collect their information, and then we need to pass that information to the back end where they then will be charged. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to say anvil.server.call, and then this is going to be charge_user. And what we're going to pass is the token as well as the email of the user and the name of the course that we're charging them for. So we're going to say user, and then this will be at email like that. And then after this, we will simply pass the self.course and then the name like that. Okay, now we haven't yet set up charge user. We're going to do that in a minute. What we want to do here, though, is after we try to charge the user, we need to alert them that this was successful or this was not successful. So we're going to say alert success. But we're going to put this in a try catch because if this is not successful, we need to tell them that something went wrong. So we're going to say accept, and we're going to say alert like this, and then something went wrong, exclamation point. Okay, so that should be good for now. That's mostly our front end done. What we need to do now is set up the charge user API or root or backend or whatever you want to call it in the backend in the server so that we can actually call this. So we're going to go now to our app. We're going to make a new server module, and we will call this rename. Let's go with purchase maybe. It doesn't really matter what we call it, but let's name it something that makes sense. You can delete all of this. We can comment out this, and then we need to call this charge user. Charge_user. Now let's remember what we were taking. That would be from checkout. We want the token, we want the email, and we want the course name. So we're going to say token, email, and then course_name. All right, so from here, we're actually going to charge the user. Now, the way we need to do that is we have to create a Stripe customer. The Stripe customer will store the payment information of the user, which it will get from the token, and then we can use the Stripe customer to charge the user's credit card. So we're going to say Stripe_customer is equal to anvil.stripe.newCustomer, and this is going to take in the email and the token. Okay, now make sure you have this imported here, anvil.stripe, otherwise that won't work. Okay, now that we have that, we are going to actually get the price of the course. We want to get the price of the course from the backend to make sure the user didn't manipulate the price when they sent the request to this URL. So what we're going to do is go to course details, and I'm just going to make a route here that's going to allow us to actually get the course price. Now we could actually, you know what, now that I'm thinking of it, let's just do it from purchase because it's going to be very easy to do this. I'm going to say the price is equal to, and this is going to be app tables, and then this will be .courses, and then and I believe we use .get, and we can get now by the ID_name equal to the course name because the course name will be all lowercases. Then we want the price, so we'll just put price like this, and it should give us the price. Now we're going to say result is equal to, and this is going to be Stripe customer dot, and then I believe we use charge. Now inside of charge, we're going to pass the amount, which is equal to the price, and the currency, which is equal to USD. Okay, now we want to just print the result. So let's print result like that, and we'll see if this was successful or not. Okay, now we do need to, after we do this, give the user access to the course, but I'm going to do that in a second. I just want to see what the result is first, and then we can show how we actually give the user access to a specific course. So let's run this and see what we get. Okay, running, view courses. Let me go here, purchase. All right, let's click buy now. Notice I need to sign in, so it gives this to me. I'm going to sign in. All right, looks like that didn't work. Okay, let me sign in with Google. That time it worked. Nice. Now it brings up this JavaScript, learn JavaScript and become a pro. I'm going to enter my payment information, click pay, and we'll see if it works. Okay, so there we go. By the way, if you want to enter payment information, you can just enter this and it should work for you, what I have here, and obviously whatever email you want. I'm going to click on pay. We get the little check mark, give it a second, and then we get something went wrong. Okay, so something went wrong, which means that we hit that accept block. So let's now actually log that exception so we can see what's going wrong, and then we can continue from there. So let's go to checkout. Let's go to alert, and let's go accept exception as E, and this is going to be, capital E, and this will be lowercase e. And then we'll go something went wrong, and rather than something went wrong, let's just put E here so we can actually see what this is equal to. And in fact, we might have to go string E, otherwise we might get a problem. Okay, so let's try this again, and let's see what the exception actually is. Okay, view courses, go here, buy now, sign in with Google. Okay, for some reason I have to sign in twice. We'll look at that bug in a second. Okay, let's enter our stuff, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to hit pay. Let's see what we get now. And none type object is not subscriptable, key price. Okay, so the problem is coming from our server. I actually think I know what this is. Let's go to purchase. And it's saying that we cannot get the key price from a none type object. So app type, apptables.courses.get, and ID name equal to course name is not giving us the correct price. There's a few things that could be going wrong here. Let's go to checkout though. And let's see, we're saying self.course name. The problem is I need to pass ID name instead of just name. So let's change that now so that we're actually getting the ID name when we're trying to look up the course. Let's run this and let's see if this is going to work this time. Again, we'll look at that double login issue in a second. So let's go to JavaScript. Let's go buy now. Let's sign in. Okay, so that time it actually worked. So I guess we were just having a glitch previous times. Let's go tim@gmail.com. I'll enter the payment information and be right back. Okay, let's try this. Pay our 37 cents. Let's check mark and fingers crossed. What do we get this time? Amount must convert to at least 30 pence. 0.38 converts to approximately 0.28. Amount too small, request ID. Okay, I'm not sure exactly why that is happening. So let's have a look and see what's going wrong now. Okay, so I've just fixed the problem here. What I actually did is just multiply the price by 100. For some reason, when I showed the price here, it was showing 37 cents rather than the actual price, which is $37.99. So I just multiplied the price by 100 here inside of the checkout when I'm doing the Stripe checkout. And then inside of my purchase on my server module, I multiplied the price by 100 as well, just to ensure that they were going to be the same. So that seemed to have actually fixed the problem for me and make it so that this was working. Anyways, let me run the code and show this to you. Again, just multiply your prices by 100 and you should be good to go. So let's go view courses. Let's go JavaScript. Let's go buy now. Sign in. Okay, looks like the sign in was working. Let's enter our information. Okay, pay $37.99. Let's hit that and let's see what we get now. Okay, all right, and we get success. Perfect, that looks good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want to look actually at what our output was. Okay, so our output was live object anvil.stripe.charge when I printed, if we go to purchase, the result right here. Now, inside of result, we can actually see if the payment was successful by accessing a specific key. This key is actually going to be called success, or is it success? I actually believe it's called result. And then if result is equal to success, that means that this was successful. If it's equal to unsuccessful, well, it was unsuccessful. So what I want to do is I want to check to make sure that the result was successful. And if it was successful, then I'm going to give the user access to this course. Okay, so I've actually been making a little bit of a mistake here. I've been trying to do this from the back end, from the server, when I actually need to do this from the front end. So I'll show you that in a second. But for now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to check if the user already owns the course inside of the backend, just to make sure I don't charge them if they do already own the course. So I'm going to say user is equal to, and then this is going to be anvil.users.get_user. And I'm going to say, first of all, if, and we'll go with user at purchased_courses is equal to none, then we're going to set this. We're going to say user at purchased courses. So let's go like this, is equal to an empty list. So the point of this is that for some users, they may not have had their purchase courses list initialized yet because the default value is just none. So if for some reason the user doesn't have that initialized, we need to initialize that, because then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to say if, and then this is going to be course name, is in user at purchase courses. So let's go like this, purchase courses like that. Then what we want to do is we want to simply return. So we want to stop. We don't want to charge the user, because if we charge them, then that means that they would have been double charged for a course they already own. So we just return directly from there. We don't end up charging them. However, if they don't already own the course, then we can charge them. So we're going to charge them like that. And then after we charge them, we'll give them access to the course. So we'll simply say user, and then this is going to be at purchased underscore courses is going to be equal to, and we'll go with user at purchased underscore courses plus, and then we'll put a list here, and inside of here, we're going to put the name of the course. So we're going to say course underscore name like that. So then this will add that to their purchase courses, and they will have access to the course. Okay, so that should be good. What I want to do is go back to courses, back to checkout actually, and I'm going to go here to info, and I'm just going to print out info after I do all of this. And actually, I'm going to print out info and then result, because this will actually tell us if we're successful or not. So let's go here and let's run this, and let's see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to go view courses, and I'm going to go purchase, and I'm going to click buy now, sign in with Google. Okay, and let me enter my information, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so let me click pay, and let's see what we get. Fingers crossed here that nothing's going to go wrong, and we get success. Perfect. And then if we look here, we get a key error on result, so I'll fix that in a second. Anyways, point is we now should have for our user access to that course. The way we can check that right now, at least, is we can go to data, we can go to users, we can scroll over, and we can see that we now have JavaScript in the purchase courses. So now if that's in our purchase courses, we should give them access to it, which is what we'll do. But first, let's go to checkout, and let me just print info rather than info result, because for some reason we were getting an error there. So I'm going to run this one more time. I just want to look at what info is giving us. Okay, so let's go view courses. Let's go purchase. Let's go buy now. Sign in. Okay, and let me enter the information, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's click pay, and let us see what we get. For info, when we print it out, let's see, we just get the email. Okay, so that's fine. We don't even care about that. I guess I was wrong to even be looking at the result variable. Everything is good. Okay, so we've purchased that. Now that we've purchased that, we should have access to that course as well. And now what we want to do is make it so that once you're signed in, you can actually access the different courses that you have. So how are we going to do that? Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of printing info, and I'm going to go to my courses page. And this is where we're actually going to show all of the courses that we own. So I'm going to go to courses, and I'm going to copy this load courses function that we have, because we're going to do a very similar thing here, except we're only going to load the courses that we have access to. So we're going to go to my courses. I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to say self.load underscore courses like that. And then what I'm going to do is rather than get all courses, I'm going to say get underscore my underscore courses like that. Now we'll do the exact same thing in terms of rendering these courses onto the page, except this time we're just going to get my courses, which means that here it's only going to give us courses that we have. So I'm going to make a new server module here, and I'm going to call this course. Oops, didn't mean to do that. We want to call it here course underscore unlocks. And then this is where we're going to put that call or that function that is going to be get all my courses. Now, for some reason, I can't highlight this. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's comment this out. And now let's go with get my courses. Get underscore my underscore courses like that. And we don't even need to pass anything here because we can just get the current user from this function. So I'm going to say user is equal to anvil.user or .users.getUser. We'll say if user equals none, then we'll just return an empty list, because if you are not logged in, you have access to no courses. Otherwise, we want to loop through all of the courses that they have, get those from the database, and then return those. So we're going to say that courses is equal to this, and then we're going to say for course in user, and then this is going to be purchased underscore courses like that. Now, one thing that I want to do too is I want to make sure that we have access to this, because if for some reason we don't have access to this, then this is going to cause an error. So I'm just going to go up here and say if user purchased courses like this, because again, this attribute could not be initialized. So I'm going to say actually, if not user purchased courses, then just return an empty list. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is for course and user.purchase course, I'm going to get the information of that course and then simply add that into this courses list. So I'm going to say course underscore info is equal to, and this is going to be app, not files, but app tables dot courses dot get. This is going to be ID underscore name equal to course, because remember, this is going to be a list of strings. Then I'm simply going to add course info to courses. So I'm going to say courses dot append, and then course info like that. And then we will return courses like so. Okay, so that's all I need for get my courses. Now what I want to do is I just want to loop through all of them inside of my courses and then create the items like I would before. So actually, I think this should probably be fine. I can say for I, course in enumerate courses. This should give me access to each of my individual courses. I should then be able to show them on the screen and be all good. The only thing is, rather than showing purchase for, I want to instead show view content, because now you own the course, you don't need to purchase it anymore. And for the button callback, what I'm actually going to do is, we're going to have to put something else, because it's not going to be self.render checkout. We'll say self.render course. And we're not going to actually make any content for these courses. So for now, what it will do is just bring us to an empty page, but we will make a function called render course. So I'm going to say define render underscore course self, and then this is going to be course underscore name like that. And then what this will do is say self dot content panel dot clear, and that's all we'll do for right now. So we actually would normally show the course, but since we don't have a course to show because we don't have any content for it, we'll just clear the screen. That kind of indicates, okay, we were viewing the course. All right, so let's just try this out. We might have a few problems because I haven't looked through everything yet, but yeah, let's see what we get. So let's go and run this and let us see what we get with my courses. Okay, so I'm going to sign in. I'm going to sign in with my Google. I'm going to click on my courses and we get an issue. What is the problem? List object has no attribute search. Okay, I can see why we're going to get that problem. I need to remove the .search here because what we're going to get instead is a list of all of the courses we already have. We don't need to search through them because it's not giving us that client readable view. It's just giving us the information from the courses. So let's run this now and let's see what we get. Okay, let's sign in. Let us sign in with Google. Let's go to my courses and course item is not defined. Okay, so we need to import course item. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to say from ... course item, import course item. I don't think I'm going to have any more problems, although you never know. Fingers crossed. Let's run the code. Let's go to sign in. Let's sign in with our user. Let's go to my courses and notice we have JavaScript and Python because, well, we bought both of them. Now I'm going to remove this in a second. And if we click view content, notice it just clears the screen because that's what we made it do. Awesome. So if we go to view courses, let's try to purchase a course now that we're signed in. Notice it says you already own this course. That is exactly what we would expect. Let's try with Python and you already own this course. Okay, we are pretty much done. Just going to fix and polish up a few things and then we're going to handle some different URLs and I'm going to show you how to deploy this. So let's go to my courses. Let's go to design. Let's delete that label because we don't want that anymore. And then there was something else we were going to do. Yes, we were going to handle the URLs. So what I want to show now is that if I go to publish, what I can actually do is publish this application. And this allows me to have a temporary link, sunnylittlewatch.anvil, that I can actually use to view my application. Now, if you have the pro version of Anvil or the business version, or the individual plan in this case, you can switch to a custom domain. And that means you can actually get whatever domain you want here. But since we're just using the free version, it just gives us kind of a random domain that we can use. Anyways, I'm going to go to this link. You're going to see that it shows us the website. This is now live. If I go here, you can see we're on this website right here. The thing is, though, I can't do something like /courses, right? If I do that, I don't have a matched URL, but I want to be able to do that. So I'm going to show you how we can handle those different pages in a second. For now, though, let's just see how this works in the deployed version. Okay, so I'm going to go to sign in, and let's sign in with Google. Okay, for some reason that didn't work. Let's try it again. Let's go to My Courses. Notice it shows the courses because we've already bought them. Now let me sign out. Okay, let's log out, and let's sign in with a new account. All right, so I've just created an account, confirmed the email. You can see I'm tim@mailinator.com. If I go to My Courses, I don't have any courses. Let's actually add some text that says we don't have any courses. We'll do that in a second. For now, though, let's go to View Courses. Okay, and let's try to purchase one. So let's go here. Let's click on Buy Now. Okay, let me go and fill in the details, and then I will be right back. Okay, let's click Pay, and let's see what happens now. Okay, looks like we're good. Awesome. So we have purchased. Now we go back. Let's go My Courses, and notice we have access to JavaScript, but we do not have access to Python because obviously we have not bought that. Sweet. So I just want to show you it works on the deployed version. You can see this is the URL that I'm on. Okay, let me close that. Let's go back to the Anvil editor, and let's continue to work. Okay, so I'm going to start by adding that label that says you currently don't have any courses. So I'm just going to throw a label right on the My Courses page, and we're just going to call this, let's go with no underscore courses underscore label, and we'll say you do not own any courses or something like that. Okay, you do not own any courses, sad face. Okay, and let's make this a headline like that. And then what I can do is go to text, more, let's make it bold, let's align it center, and we'll leave that there for now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it, did I spell this wrong? No, I think that's fine. I'm just going to make it so that when we have any courses, it doesn't show this label. So to do that, I'm going to go to code. And then when I load the courses, I'm going to say, if the len of courses is greater than 0, then no courses label dot visible is equal to false. Okay, so if we have more than one course, then we'll just make that invisible so we no longer see it. Okay, let's try this now. Let's run our code. Let's sign into our account. Okay, we're going to sign in with Google. And now when I go to My Courses, we get an error. It says no courses label is not defined. Okay, that is most likely because I forgot to put the self beside it. So let me stop that. Let's go to code. Yep, that would be why. Okay, let's go to self. Let's try this now. And let us go sign in with Google and My Courses. And notice it's not showing that label. But if we don't have any courses, it will show that label. I'm not going to show that to you, but that will happen. Okay, great. So that is all working. Now, the last thing I want to show you is handling the different URLs in your web browser. So let's go to the base page, and we'll do that from here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new Python module inside of this form. So just to kind of clarify here, all of these different things that we have are forms. These are like the front-end user interface, right? We have the design page and the code page, but we can just write regular Python code inside of a Python module that kind of belongs to this form. So see where base is? I'm going to click on the 3 arrows. I'm going to click add module, and it's going to add a module inside of here. Now what I'm going to do is just rename this to URLs. And I'm going to make a dictionary inside of here that's going to reference what URL points to what form, okay? So I'm going to say from ... and then this is going to be home, import home. And I'm going to say from ... and this is going to be courses, import courses. And then from ... my courses, import my courses, okay? What I'm going to do now is say URLs is equal to, this is going to be a dictionary. I'm going to say home corresponds to home. Notice I'm not calling it, I'm just writing the name of it. And then I'm going to say courses goes to courses. And I'm going to say my hyphen courses goes to my courses like that. Okay, perfect. So now I have my URLs. The point of this is just to better organize my code, so I'm not defining this right inside of the base form. Now from base, I'm going to import URLs. So I'm just going to say from URLs, import URLs. Now I think we're going to need 1 dot, although we'll see if that works or not. Then what I'm going to do is in the init, I'm going to handle the potential different URLs that I'm currently at. So I'm going to say define handle underscore URLs. And then what I want to do is say that the URL is equal to, and this is going to be get and URL hash. I'll discuss what this does in a second. And then I want to look at, sorry, I need self here as well. I want to look at what the hash is and then go to the specific page based on the URL hash. So first of all, what URL hash is going to do is it's going to get what comes after the pound sign in our URL. So we're not going to use the slash to do the page navigation. We're going to use the pound sign because this is a single page application. But the point is that this will get what is after it. I'm then going to convert this to $lower. So even if you type it in capitals, it still works. I'm then going to say if the URL is in URLs like this, then what I want to do is go to that page. So I'm going to say content panel. So self.content panel like this dot clear. And then I'm going to say self.content panel dot add component. And this component is going to be URLs at URL like that. And then I'm going to call it. Now, this might seem a bit weird if you haven't seen this before, but if I go to URLs, I'm just writing the name of the class, right? And so if I access the specific URL, it gives me the class. And then what I do is I simply initialize the class and add that as a component to the content panel. Now I'm looking here to see if anything else, if there's anything else that I need to do here. Doesn't look like I do. Although what I'm going to do after this is just say else and then self.go to home. So the point is that if you put in a URL that does not reference a URL that we have access to, so if it's not in the URLs file, we'll just go to the home page. And the home page is just going to clear the content panel and then go to, sorry, where am I? Clear the content panel and go to home. Now that actually means that what I can do is rather than putting self.go to home here, I can just say self.handle URLs. And if we don't have a URL that's in the URLs file, then we will simply go to the home page. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. What I'm going to do now is just publish the application because I can only really look at the URLs from the publish app. I'm going to go to this URL here, and now I will show you how we actually go to a specific page. So let's go to hashtag, and then let us go to, what do we want here? Let's try courses. Okay, now notice when I do that, it actually didn't bring me to where I was expecting to go. Let me try this again. And we see that it did bring me to courses. Okay, so I just had to hit enter twice there. I'm not sure exactly why. Let's try going to my courses though. Let me just copy this and hit enter again. And you can see that now we go to my courses and I am signed in. Perfect, that is all good. Okay, so with that said, that's pretty much gonna wrap up everything that I need to cover in this video. Again, I will leave a link to clone this Anvil project in the description in case you got lost or in case you just want to get access to this project. Anvil was the sponsor of this video, so I do need to thank them again for doing that. This is really an awesome platform. I had a great time making this video and actually working with Anvil and kind of prepping before. This is a really cool platform to build an entire website from scratch using only Python. You saw here, we didn't use any JavaScript, we didn't use any HTML or CSS. All we need to know is Python, and we actually didn't really need to write that much code considering the type of website we made, which was an e-commerce site with payment integration, users, and everything like that. So again, a massive thank you to Anvil. Make sure you check them out from the link in the description. And with that said, I will end the video here. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another one.